Home sellers in these cases argue that practices by NAR and its members are anti-competitive because they require all homes to be listed on a member-controlled multiple listing service, with broker commissions disclosed ahead of the home going on the market, and with few realistic options. I'm going to say that again. With few realistic options available for sellers to reduce commission payments below the typical split between buyers and sellers and their brokers.
It's just not true.
Yeah,
it's just not true.
At all.
Like
There's
saying that there are few.
Yeah.
Welcome to the All Blends Perfectly podcast. Keith, Ryan, Harrison, Coalition Properties, and friends talking about the intersection between lifestyle, real estate, culture, art, and everything in between because it all blends perfectly.
Good day, good people, and welcome to another episode of the All Blends Perfectly podcast. My name is Harrison Beecher, and I'm here with my partners, my brothers, Mr. Ryan Butler.
What's up?
And Mr. Keith James, a.k.a. Jimmy Kenneth.
Howdy.
With the shades on.
Howdy. Okay.
Way like Forrest Gump.
Hi. That's one of my favorite memes,
Classic.
GIFs of all time.
Classic.
All right, today we're going to talk about some current events for the majority of this conversation. If you are in real estate at all, the last couple weeks, you have seen some pretty significant major news stories. The first being the NAR versus Burner, Sitzer, I'm messing up their names, but the NAR lawsuits that just concluded in Missouri.
Burner?
Yeah, that's one. It was like the one of the plaintiffs' names.
Burnett?
Burnett. There we go.
Cool.
See, you know when you don't like somebody, you mess up their name on purpose. You get mad at them.
Wow. Jumping in fast.
Just saying. All right, because I'm salty, man.
I don't even like him.
And let's give the disclaimer that we are speaking as individuals, not on behalf of any organizations which we may be a part of. So these are the opinions of
That's
Harrison,
the fine print.
Ryan, and Keith.
You heard the fine print.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't cut that part out. Keep that part in.
Leave that in. It's important.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of buzz, and there's and my soapbox, if I can have 30 seconds for a soapbox, there's a lot of people with followings, with passion, with excitement, with enthusiasm, talking about both the trials and the impacts and what's going to happen to realtors to organize real estate that, one, are not involved enough to actually know the details of the trials. Makes me upset. Should probably sit down. Two, don't do enough business or don't do significant business to where they are out in the streets interacting with people to pontificate about the future of the industry. Like what you said, Keith said before, you can't burn out if you've never been on fire, right?
Ooh, that is my quote.
Yeah, you can't be hot and mad about something if you don't do it, okay? So that's what I bring to the conversation.
That's the energy Harrison's bringing today
from
right
now. But outside of let's talk about the facts. So class action lawsuit where essentially a group of sellers got together and said that because of organized real estate being the National Association of Realtors, multiple listing services, the system that we currently have that has created a situation where prices were fixed, increased. There was antitrust behavior that made consumers pay more than they would have had to pay did these structures and companies not exist. That's the premise. Went in front of a jury. A jury agreed in the state of Missouri that was the case. I think it was a class of around 500,000. No, it was a couple 100,000 sellers that were actually included in that case. And the judge and the jury said yes, guilty. Quickly, within a couple hours.
Quickly.
There will still be an appeal process. So exactly how the math of the award, which started out at 1.7, and then I'm learning all these new legal terms because everybody's an attorney right now.
Yep.
1.7 billion base ruling, and then something called treble, which means you could like triple it up to like 5 point something billion.
It can go up.
It could go up. But it still has to go through appeal and all that. So that's the premise of what happened. The thing I'd like to kind of talk to y'all about, for one, is this question of value, right? Because whenever an institution gets challenged or checked and someone else looks at it and has criticism of it, I think it is a common response of others to say, well, I don't need that. Like, it sucks, like, or whatever, like to have a kind of a negative response to it. And my just open question to y'all as my business partners and friends and people I probably talk to more than almost anyone else in the world is, what did y'all think when you first heard the verdict, and then what does that make you think about NAR and KW and the other entities that are involved in it?
Yeah, I mean, realtors are useless. That's the
that's the purpose.
Pretty much.
Well, that's the sentiment right now, right? But I always think of like historically, it's like we're repeating some of the same mistakes, I think. And if we look before, buyer agency hasn't always been a thing. It was not there at the dawn of real estate. And I actually think the structures in place allow for a more competitive situation and actually less pricings to the consumers. Because if you didn't know about what was out there a little bit by hearing the whispers or seeing what is open on the MLS, I mean, some consumers could get charged, an arm and a leg. I'm like, no, this is what I charge to sell homes. And I think there's two things I'll like to point out. One, again, 70s, 80s, buyer agency wasn't a thing like that. Like, that is definitely a newer thing. So there was only the listing agents and then the sub agents, which technically represent the listing
and the seller.
The seller, excuse me. So you had someone taking you out to see homes who was representing the seller. So you didn't have anyone representing you.
Fiduciary. There's lack of fiduciary
responsibility. And then the second thing is that if you look at commercial real estate, it could go back to that. And anyone who's had any piece of commercial real estate experience knows it is a dog world.
Super dog.
And the people do not care about you as much, quite frankly. And you see how the commission structures and splits are set and those types of things. And hey, it's working. But I think of certain markets like New York or certain markets that are more similar to where it could potentially go again, or how maybe people are envisioning it. And I mean, that's not a fun market to me personally. Like, that's not as fun for a lot of reasons, but I could see it. I could see how someone can envision like what they're saying. There are already situations and scenarios where that exists in microcosms or certain areas of the country already. So it's like, take a look at that and ask yourself, do you want that? Is that what you want?
Yeah. And Keith, man, all the stuff, what does it make you think about?
We had to fight all our life. All our life, we had to fight. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But no, seriously, I think taking out, I feel like when this occurred, all aspects wasn't taken into account. And from a transparency piece, the transparency of a buyer agent and a listing agent, and it keeps the playing field very level and very fair, right? And I think taking out this aspect it's an area and opportunity, but also it kind of alleviates a lot of that transparency on both sides. And I just think about my clients and my buyers, right? If they didn't have me representing them or me having to go to them to ask them for commission, I mean, some of them are just scraping by to get to the closing table. So in my mind, that wouldn't be a situation that would be fair. And also the representation on the seller side by the listing agent, you can go and tell a seller, I'm going to charge X, and it's an open playing field. And how do we know that this is standard or not? You know, how do we know that this commission structure that was presented by the listing agent, whether it's 10%, 12%, they can just put anything out there, any number, and that it's not fair. And so just the level of fairness and the level of transparency is super important in real estate, because there's a lot of things I would ask the seller that are on these stands, have they ever negotiated with a buyer?
Then of course they have.
Have they ever?
They can do it though.
They can do right,
because they're
and it's going to be a trickle down effect that I see. I don't think it's good for the industry, but we'll see what happens.
And I guess
it's still early too.
It is early. There will be appeals, legal process, especially in class action situations, because again, everybody on the internet right now is an attorney, right? Legal expert,
paralegal, all of that.
We know it's going to take a while. And now that I've calmed down a bit, because I did come out pretty hot. I was probably kind of red too.
You are red.
I was pretty red and frustrated. The bigger and most frustrating part to me is the premise that a lot of either the jurors or people looking at this from the outside made their decision off of. There are phrases thrown around a lot like typical, standard, normal commission or compensation, like these numbers that people say are like expected all the time. And we all know, as productive agents that have been doing this for a while, that everything is negotiable.
Yep.
And I challenge any consumer, realtor, other folks out here looking at this that want to say that there is a standard or flat number or something that everybody always expects to get. If a big enough deal comes across your desk and they're only offering a very small percentage or something way outside of the standard number everybody else says, they still gonna take it. Like you're going like, and quite frankly, it's everyone's choice in each transaction, both consumer and the person they're hiring, what that number will be. I want to read one sentence from one of the attorneys for the plaintiffs that they delivered that was included in this CoStar article when he was getting interviewed about it. He said, home sellers in these cases argue that practices by NAR and its members are anti-competitive because they require all homes to be listed on a member-controlled multiple listing service, with broker commissions disclosed ahead of the home going on the market, and with few realistic options, I'm gonna say that again, with few realistic options available for sellers to reduce commission payments below the typical split between buyers and sellers and their brokers. Biggest problem with that sentence that he said.
It's just not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
At all.
Like
There's
saying
a
that there
ton
are
of options.
few, but few realistic. And what he means by realistic, I think, is best, optimal.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between saying I have no other choice and the best choice that exposes my property as a seller to the most people, helps me potentially make the most money because the most people see it, helps protect me, helps protect them, helps us navigate and get to closing successfully.
What is
with the
realistic?
listing agent about? I know, right?
What is realistic?
But they're also like flat fee brokers have been around forever, so you can totally go to them if you want to. They'll sell it for whatever percentage, not getting into numbers and stuff like that, but like it's cheap. Go for it, right? And or you can sell it on your own if you want to. Also go for it. There's just like it's taking out some of the free market, I think, to this, because there's been regulations around it plus free market, and now, I mean, some of the things that you are actually asking, is that the free market now? Because any big market at some point gets regulated in some way, and it's because of a reason. Yeah. And you can, not get into
unchecked
politics.
capitalism can get wild.
Unchecked. That's exactly what I'm going with. So unchecked. So you're saying you want to uncheck it again? Because if you uncheck it again, I know some of the ways listing agents and stuff like that there used to be a point where a listing agent would take, you make this amount, and then anything above that
that's called a net listing, which ethically has been ruled out by NAR in most places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Net listing. What if net list? So all these things, it's like I could come back. So you're saying like, all right, let's take away the chains. Let's take away the little bars that you go when you go bowling.
Yeah.
Let's take those out and let's just see what a ball.
That's the Wild Wild West.
So you're making a Wild Wild West, right? And in the end, we'll all work through it. That's the thing about it. Like, I'm concerned, and we'll have to move and shake and change in those types of things. But I'm confident in our team and our skills and our leadership and our grit that we'll make it work regardless. And our clients see the value in it.
What's my favorite phrase? Demonstrable value, right? Demonstrable value.
There you go.
You love it.
Yeah.
I love the words.
Harrison, this is all up your lane, alley, and everything that you're a part of. What are some of the conversations that are being had in your group chats right now?
Well, I think the biggest is just frustration because people, I was joking about the Chris Brown line from the beginning of "Look at Me Now." He's like, they're hating on the club from the outside. They can't even get in, right? But for real, it is easy. It's really easy to kick an institution or to kind of crap on something when it's down or when it's having challenges. And look, any combination of groups of humans and people are flawed. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has been perfect. And especially NAR, a group I'm a part of and care about and am working really hard to, has had a really screwed up history of a lot of racism and exclusionary behavior and, problems over history.
Yeah.
Nothing is perfect. But I am, for the most part, our group is first frustrated, but then also we're like looking forward to the opportunity for the next generation of leaders to be able to actually speak up and share two important things. We get the opportunity to share fact and then share some real context around these facts, because when it's, news line, people look at headlines, people look at little snippets here and there. I think they're really missing out on a big part of the facts of what happens in real estate transactions, what really helps consumers succeed and win and do this thing, which is purchasing a home and building wealth through real estate. And then there's a context around some of the reasons why it has been structured the way it has historically. But I'll tell you another thing that's happening in our conversations is that the next generation of leaders within NAR, and quite frankly, the next generation of, I think, just realtors, brokers, people in the business, we're open to flexibility and shifting of business models if we need to. Like, we're not afraid of a change to the status quo. Do we acknowledge that it's going to be interesting? It's going to be different. It's going to ask more of us in terms of how we talk with our buyer agents, how our buyer agency agreements are written, how we talk with our buyer clients. Yes, but like Ryan said, like, we're still going to be here doing this. Like, I'm not terrified for us. It's not the end of the world. Like, the roof is not falling. The house isn't completely burning down. But that's another part of our convo is just, excited for the opportunity to show who the actual leaders and winners are, because this is going to just add another step that's kind of checking your professionalism.
There's been a bunch of clickbait for it too, though.
Yeah,
sure.
I've been seeing stuff like, if Gary Keller going to pay out of pocket for some of the expenses, and all these real estate CEOs, are they going to pay out of pocket? Like, man,
is everybody going bankrupt because $5.7 billion is not what they have on paper? Like, yeah. And as of today, beginning in November, we still don't have all the answers, right? Exactly where things will land. There will be more cases. There will be more trials. And I have one more soapbox moment. Can I have one more?
Bro, this your lane, bro.
Sorry. I know it's been a
You
lot.
on the front lines
talking to
fighting.
I'm going to sip here.
Take a sip. Quench thirst.
Fellow realtors that are on the internet, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. Anything you put on a public forum can and will be used against us, not just you, us, in the court of law. Over the last 48 hours since this verdict came out, the mess I have seen in Facebook groups and things I'm not even a part of. Like, I didn't sign up for this. Why is it showing up in my feed where people are saying, like, here, well, my typical amount is this, and I get it this way, and I should get it. I deserve that. And it's like, bro, you are completely missing it, because all of those things, screenshotted, the plaintiff's attorneys are here licking their chops. Like, they are giving us the evidence that shows both anti-competitive behavior, expectation of standard, establishing a standard and telling everybody else, this is the standard amount we got to charge these consumers. Right. And again, amongst businesses and teams and brokers, that is okay. Like, a team in business can talk about our business strategy to assert our worth and what we get paid. Amongst different brokerages, different companies, that is where antitrust comes in. So please, folks, be thoughtful, be considerate. Do not give more fuel to the folks that are pushing a narrative that we are just, dollar commission chasing, commission breath, desperate, thirsty, all those things, because they are getting that fuel from us. We're giving them evidence.
And when you talk about timing, an appeal is going to happen, right? So we probably got a couple more years of this thing going on. So that's a lot of time to collect all that data and screenshots, all those Facebook groups for the plaintiff side.
Yeah.
How do we just silence everyone? Because, it's a lot out there on the social media. And, freedom of speech, I understand that. But, like, this is not – the stuff that's been talked about in these group chats is not in our favor at all.
Yeah, I think also the lawsuit has exposed some of the really not good things about the industry, right?
Yes.
Like that's a truthful piece of it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is we're fighting to say it's not like that for, the majority of people.
Yeah.
There are going to be people, especially since it's such a low barrier to entry, you just have people who can hop in at any time that might do a deal or two. And that's kind of, then their opinion is valid at that point, because they're still part of it, And
there's a stat from the recent profile of realtors members that they put out this spring. I think it's something around 30% of current licensees have been in under 3 or 4 years. Like, you got a big chunk of the 1.5 million realtors that are fresh in because what's happened in the last 3 years. Like, the market was wild. People were coming in.
And we're expecting a lot of them to actually exit the market now,
Correct.
right? Like, we're going to find out coming up really soon, because
it's renewal season.
It's renewal season, and you got to pay those dues, and you got to look and say, did I make any money?
Yeah.
Or did I not make any money?
Facts.
If I made some money, okay. If I didn't make any money and I ain't selling homes this year, you're going to see an exit from those people that are paying the dues.
Yeah. And Keith, one question I wanted to ask you, because you alluded to it earlier. We do a lot of work with both first-time buyers, program buyers, people that have a pretty significant amount of legwork, support, and expertise needed to help them through the buying process. Do you think there was any consideration on the side, or like, where is their voice in a world where their support, people helping them, might not have a straightforward path to compensation?
It was no consideration at all. I didn't, not one time see, and I haven't sifted through everything, but not one time did I see that type of consideration for those people. And that's why the first thing I thought about when I saw that was like, all my life I had to fight because it's literally the same thing for those people, to get them uneducated, right? To get them less value, to get them in a situation where they could be jammed up. And that's a possibility when you turn into the Wild Wild West, right? Because the access to information is very important, right? And that's what the people that are, that needs the first-time homebuyer programs, need the money, and need the expertise, does not have.
It's moving a goalpost. That's what it is. It's moving a goalpost.
Yeah.
And when the goalpost moves, in any situation like that, there are people who feel, there's this group of people that feel like they're going to be, vindicated in some way. But there's going to be a group of marginalized people who are going to get it to worse over and over again. The people who are already having the hardest time are going to have a harder time, particularly during transitions, right? So we're going to see people who would normally, they're fighting to get into the houses that they're into using these programs, and they're trying to provide a better life for themselves. And this could screw it up, quite frankly. Like, it could really screw it up, man.
Yeah, think about
because, now you're going to say, okay, great. If you don't have the money to work with me, then I won't work with you.
But even if I want, and the sad part is, I feel like I'd want to, but
gotta feed my family.
Because that's a whole other part of this conversation. And shout out to Tommy Choi, talk about him a lot on here. He's had a lot of great posts. He had one the other day that said, I'm really exhausted by having to defend how I earn a living to feed my family.
Yeah.
And I understand and exhaustion might not have been the word, but just something around a sentiment around like people constantly looking at and saying, you're great at what you do, you're awesome, but you make too much.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're great, man. You are awesome.
Yeah.
Can I get it for half off?
Yeah.
Can I get it for 20? Can I get the same thing, same effort, all the expertise, all of that stuff for less? And I think as a seasoned professional, I'm not afraid of that question, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's something we and our team are prepared to answer. I just wish more, and I think a part of the emotional anxiety that this brings up in a lot of folks is people aren't. Like, especially salespeople, especially realtors, I don't think are prepared and armed with the right tools and conversation to like defend their value and their worth.
Which means, and when you think about the trickle-down effect, you got less inventory, right? You got less buyers out looking at properties, right? So if this come into effect, right, and we still are in the same aspect of the market, that means less people are going to be represented on the buyer side, right? And that's where that Wild Wild West is super, it's scary. Because I know for a fact, I can count, like, I know so many people who needs the education and need those programs and need somebody representing them in a light that is favorable, but they don't have the money to pay a buyer agent
separately. If they had to pay it separately on top of the deal.
Yeah, they don't have it to do it, right? And quite frankly, it's just not fair. And what if this is a conspiracy theorist? A conspiracy.
What do you mean?
What if this is a conspiracy?
Explain what you mean by this conspiracy, my brother.
I'm not gonna go on my soapbox, but like, why is this happening right now? Like, why? I mean, I know there's been 2 years going on for 2 years and like been in court and over again, but like at this present time, right now, this news dropped.
Of all times in the market cycle, right?
Of all times in the market cycle, right? It's a lot going on in the world, guys. I'm just saying, it's a lot going on. What are they trying to distract us from?
What else? What else is going on? What else is going on?
You gotta look. I'm just saying. That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude, but I mean, and the other piece too, that's like, I don't know, kind of frustrating is you look at like who are the winners and who are the losers in every case. For one, the biggest winners is going to be these attorneys that coming up on a lick, whatever is negotiated. They come, and again, I'm not going to disparage someone that works for the living and does their job. That's their job to make a case and win. I love suits. I watch how settlements work in suits. They make money, right?
You're an attorney now.
They make money.
Oh,
I'm
you're
not.
an
I'm
attorney
not.
now.
I'm not.
Okay, Harvey Specter.
I watch.
All right, Harvey Specter.
No, I'm Mike Ross because I ain't go to law school. Yeah. But I look at this and say, who wins and who, like, on the other side, like, we know from a functional and everyday standpoint, while there will be adjustments, like, by no means the end of the world, just changes, but like at whose expense do those changes come, right? And I don't really know. I don't know the answer. It's like, it's different. Oh man. So the other, I guess piece in this is value of association. Like, we look at, like, I know from being involved what NAR is doing both on this legal defense side, what we've done on the lobbying and policy side. Like, I've directly seen a lot of value, but I know and will admit that there's a lot of our 1.5 million members that don't feel that value in the same way. and look, and I think this is important to say, like, why, or I guess where does the value come up short, or what do you not see? You're like, explain.
Well, I'm just, just talking. I don't really understand. I'm not going to say value. I just don't think that the communication has been communicated effectively. All I see is what you do, and you're very close to me. So I see you going out here lobbying, but like, what needle is being pushed forward? You know what I mean? And if it is being pushed forward, how is that communicated down to the people that are really on the streets out here, grinding and selling houses? You know what I mean? Like, is it just a gatekeeper for us? Is it a shield? Or are you guys lobbying in front of the White House, really pushing forward these needles for fair housing and all this good stuff? Like, what? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see, I don't, what's the result?
Like,
I don't feel it. I don't feel it. You know what I mean?
And that's so, and I'm grateful to have this conversation in an open platform, because one of my most passionate points of being involved at local and state level is communicating our wins and communicating them on a platform where you're going to see it and hear it. Yeah. And like, because there's been a lot of things that NAR has done archivally and historically that have made a big difference, like the 30-year fixed mortgage. Like, if it were not for NAR, there's a very high probability that we would not have a 30-year fixed mortgage. And can you imagine if it was only 15, only 10, only private financing, what that would look like for affordability for people?
Got it.
And that's one of the first answers people give all the time. But then what Janet Jackson said, like, what have you done for me lately, right? Like,
yeah,
like
you see all the bad stuff, right? You see all the bad
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm thinking in my head, if I see this bad stuff, like, am I not on the right platforms to look at the good stuff that they're doing?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And the short answer is there's a lot of good. We can list it and talk about some of it here. But that is you talked about the group of friends and folks that I'm involved with that are going to continue to be in leadership.
Good people.
That's one of our main focal points, because we get the framing and communicating both demonstrable value from the past and today, and giving you a reason to show up and give of your time. Because look, you're all independent contractors, right? You business owners, right? You like own your business separately. It's got to be worth your time to show up and come out.
Absolutely.
And that is a growth opportunity that I will admit for our association at every level. And I honestly think right now, because
it's time.
Well, and because everybody's looking closer and challenging culture and how things are framed and how it's communicated, that it will change quicker than it probably would have otherwise.
Right.
Because if it doesn't, right, we're going to continue to see lack of engagement, people questioning, people saying, like, when it comes down to if I'm now a part of one of these franchises that settled out of the lawsuit, and my franchisee says I don't have to be a member, and I get a choice to be a member of my local association or to be a member of NAR or not, you got to make a real direct appeal to that person in that moment where they can choose to both spend their money and show up to do it.
Like, I saw I don't know if it was clickbait yesterday. I saw NAR CEO step down amid these whatever's going on right now. And I think a lady took over, black lady took over, which is super cool.
Yeah. Nakia Wright is her name, CEO of Chicago Sun-Times. Just happened yesterday. And only point of clarification.
Interim.
She's interim CEO.
Okay.
Yep. And there's a longer CEO search. Bob Goldberg, past CEO, had announced his retirement back in June. So he was leaving. It was just supposed to be the end of the year or first quarter of next year. it was moved up for many reasons.
Yeah.
And announced that it'll be, I think, mid-November.
Yeah, I know you can't
speak.
speak specifically, but that was just kind of like interesting that was a headline yesterday after all the stuff went down.
And look, there's a, and last couple pieces I'll say before we wrap. Within NAR, there's a Culture and Transformation Commission, right? Group of staff, realtors, stakeholders involved, brought together. I'm one of them out of the whole country that gets to, we had one meeting. We're going to have a couple more meetings over the coming months and year to really talk about like how the culture of our organization can do better in many ways. And the sad part is that it's needed. The good part is that it is convened with a lot of impactful, thoughtful, active practitioner voices. Like we got a lot of people sell a lot of real estate and actually do good business that are in here talking and that care and are younger and are going to be connected and be around with us for a while. So, I mean, if anything, I am more encouraged about the future because one, a lot of the fat's about to get trimmed. It was going to get trimmed anyway because of market
in NAR.
In NAR.
That's cool. That's cool. It's because for an organization like that, it needs people like us to come in and put some change in there, right? Yeah. So that's what
I mean, it is a business, and so it still has to operate in a manner, even though it's the business of representing, it's an association, so the business of representing realtors, right, as a voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's unique too, because I mean, anything I feel like real estate sales teams, like we have our own interesting and unique flavor we put on things because of the nature of how we get paid, because of I gotta choose, I eat what I kill. Like there's some interesting parts that make realtor run things just different. Yeah. But we got a lot of lessons we can learn from other organized trade associations of people that are salaried, that are staff, right? Like they just run other businesses that have, structures and things that we need to bring into place too.
Do you feel like times are changing inside of the NAR? Like I think right now you've seen a lot of change over the last 5 years, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I do. And again, it's not done. And the good part is, well, the good part is there are new faces, new hands being raised of people that either I'm coming from a place of like, this sucks and I want to change it from the outside, that are curious to show up, which we welcome those. Right. Or folks that have like been involved and are kind of looking up and looking around like, nah, man, like I want to tell y'all how this really is. Yeah. That's who's kind of drifting to the top in a lot of spaces and showing up. Because it's going to take like people that understand and know and care and are willing to put in some work to make a change. Because quite frankly, together, when you have an organization of this size, there's a lot of good that it can do, a lot of good that it has done, a lot of good that it can do. Yeah. You just need the right mix of leadership and folks in there to influence that. And
Indeed.
Yeah, man.
Good stuff, man.
Thank y'all for this.
How you feeling now, Beecher?
I'm good. I'm a little less red.
Like therapy
right
session.
A little
for
less red. Yeah, a little less red. Yeah.
Got his thoughts out.
Got his thoughts out.
Yeah.
And I think he wrote some of his thoughts out too.
Oh man, I got to know. Look, I'm like Drake. I got a couple notes which I'm probably gonna be screaming at my phone camera at some point again. Soon. But thank y'all for the space and platform and engagement.
Indeed, man. That's what it's for, man.
Appreciate you. All right, so if you want to get any more content from us at the All Blends Perfectly podcast, the best place to do it is on YouTube. We're also on social media, on Instagram at All Blends Perfectly. I am at HL Beach. He is at Ryan Butler Hoya. He is at Keith James Realtor. And our sales team is at Coalition Properties. Thank you so much for joining us on the All Blends Perfectly podcast. And again, all of our statements we made today are just our own and not reflective of any organization that we are a part of. And we'll see you next time on the All Blends Perfectly podcast.
Okay, attorney beat you.